We have one final presentation, Michael Martine, who is cutting-edge IBM thought leader, who will share with us some of his work showcasing a tool called Innovate on how to manage complex problems.
So I'm here to talk to you a little bit about Innovate. And unfortunately, this is not what I do day to day. I'm in our CIO's office. My responsibility is to revolve around planning and strategy for how we spend our money internally to transform IBM. But I've been interested in this space for a long time. And I was called upon to help share that enthusiasm here with you. I've got a couple of setup charts, but I'm going to move through them pretty quickly because as we started the day with Beth and we've moved to the holodecks, a lot of these things have already been said, but let me put them in context for IBM. We've run conferences, many conferences around our software products, our services, the things that we do, and business process modeling is one of the capabilities that we've enabled through hardware and software and services for our customers. We found that there's a big gap, and probably, how many people know what business process modeling is? You ever heard that before? All right, so in the room there's about like 5 or 6 people. So we saw that there was a gap too with our customers, and we wanted to explain it in a way that made sense to them. And one of the things that we did is we ran a contest between UNC, yay, go Tar Heels, and our friends over at Duke, boo Duke. And as part of that contest, a woman by the name of Phaedra Bonadiris made a proposal, a winning proposal. She's from UNC, by the way. And said, we ought to have a game that helps describe how business process modeling works and describes it in a way that makes a lot of sense. And we've talked a lot today about simulations, we've talked about role-playing, we've talked about serious games, and we position ourselves as a serious game somewhere between the game and simulation in the kind of models that you see here. We all know that the time is right. I mean, you wouldn't be here, obviously, if you didn't believe that games and gaming aren't the right time and the right place, and with the Gen Y elements coming to the fore, this has all been said, so I won't walk you through it. But let me talk for a minute about the initial vision and goals of Innovate 1.0. We're on 2.0, and we can show you more about that too. But 1.0 had as its strategic objectives what you see up here. We wanted to provide something that was free. Anybody who wanted it could have it. We wanted to explain what business process modeling was about, how it worked with service-oriented architecture, the concept of business modularity. We've talked a lot about this sort of thing. The open crowd understands this very well. And we wanted to have this apply to a very wide range of audiences, both in the commercial space, in the government space, and certainly in the education space. You may have seen this chart before. The Maslow's hierarchy about learning is, pretty much the standard fare here, and we want, like everyone else, people to experience rather than to just read a book. And the bearing has been, has certainly been proven. So the results that we had, and this is where things start to get interesting, we've deployed Innovate 1.0 to over 1,000 universities as part of the IBM Academic Initiative, where these partner universities all over the world, including my friends at Duke, were able to download this software and run it and use it, and many were using it in their classes themselves. So let me show you a quick video, and hopefully this will come through the sound nicely as well.
Learn by playing a game.
We were playing the Innovate game by IBM.
I was pretty impressed because I wasn't expecting it to be in 3D.
Awesome.
Video game era.
I game a lot, so if I could sit at home, and game away and learn about operations management at the same time, that would help.
Traditional methods are harder on professors because you have to attract attention.
One thing that's also a challenge when you're lecturing is how do you draw the class in so they're not sort of falling asleep? How do you engage them? How are you making them think during real time?
But in gaming, that students are already involved in a fun environment through the games.
And to be able to play the game, you have to be engaged. I mean, there's not really an option of falling asleep.
It's a lot more interesting, and it kind of gets you thinking how the process works.
If you change the business process, what impacts do you see in the end result?
The students can see the diagram, and they see that there's all these numbers in the background, and they change the diagram, and something else happens, and there's some ability to make decisions based on that.
The simulation was a little more interactive. It allowed you the opportunity to kind of play around with different variables and see different outcomes and kind of learn through doing.
You kind of get to know how a company actually works.
You show students abstract business process module diagrams, and for them to see how that might be used at a company is a big leap.
After this, it'll be easier to explain how business processes are used in companies.
I mean, that's one thing that I can lecture till my ears fall off, and you can't convey, what are companies actually doing, how are they actually using these things.
In a lecture, you understand, you hear what the professor's saying, but in your mind's eye you can't picture it. I think the game, the level of interactivity in the game help you to actually get a solid feel for the concepts in the class.
Several of the things that are in the background of the game are things we'll talk about later in the course.
It can be used in multiple stages, so it's a good introductory game like we did this time. You can also utilize this at the end of the course to summarize the overall operations.
To see that IBM is using this and understand how a company might use some of these diagrams to actually make decisions is really useful. So I think that's very exciting for students to be able to see that in the classroom.
I won the game! I got fireworks!
So she was very happy about winning the game and getting the fireworks in the end, and we were excited for her. And this is the first release of the software. So you can see, in the case of Southern California, how they use the game for education purposes and teaching business process modeling, similar to some of the things that I'm sure you've done in your business classes, for those of you who've had that opportunity. We took those learnings, those 1,000 universities that we worked with, and the companies and the like who saw some promise in this as well, and said, well, what can we do next? What are the next steps? And what's available right now is what we call 2.0, right? Innovate 2.0. And we took the scenarios from before, we coupled them with our Smarter Planet story in terms of how can we optimize supply chains, how can we make call centers more efficient, how can we improve traffic, what are the things that we can do? It's not only about pure business and business process. When you break it down, anything is about process, and then process optimization gives you the opportunity to do it better, faster, cheaper. And in terms of peace building kinds of activities, when you have those first responders land on the ground, they're doing what they can, and as more agencies and governmental and non-governmental organizations come in, the coordination amongst all those, you can see pretty quickly how having a clear set of processes is to everyone's benefit, and having tools and techniques of exchanging information and working between them can help too. So we had those objectives. We came forward and said, well, what can we do around our Smarter Planet strategy and help to explain that in terms of business that can be understood and that makes a lot of sense. And we, IBMers, are extraordinarily proud of the way that this has been picked up so quickly by the transition team with the government. It was amazing to see our chairman, San Palmisano, up there at the podium with the presidential seal, and it was called, I heard the story of how this happened, how he was called and said, hey, why don't you go to the front and talk for a little bit while the cameras are there. He didn't get 45 minutes to plan, and for the next day it was like, right, here we go. And then talking about the Smarter Planet, and I could do this at length, 1 billion transistors for each individual, right? Interconnected, intelligent networks working one with another to improve the world that we're living in. And we can do that through lots of different technology, and business process management is one angle there too. So let me show you another little video.
Enter a world where cities reduce traffic congestion before your eyes. Companies revolutionize customer service. Businesses streamline supply chains. Experience real problems, real solutions, real results. The Smart Work 3D Interactive. Then once you've seen the possibilities, put them into practice. Innovate 2.0, the next evolution of the groundbreaking business simulator, will challenge you to solve today's toughest business problems and learn how to work smarter. Every choice affects the fate of After Incorporated and decides your place among global business leaders. See the possibilities, get the skills, make the choices. To win in business, you have to innovate.
All right, so I can't do my Mr. Movie Tone voice right after that, but you get the picture, right? We're extremely excited about this, and we see that this will help us and help our customers in a variety of ways. The video told about 8,000 customer examples. The things we have here are real. The example of smarter traffic is something that we deployed in Stockholm. And this is something that's enabling cities like Stockholm, like Singapore, many others around the world to be more intelligent, interconnected, and how we manage traffic flow in and out of the city. So let me take a moment here. Shoot. Down, page up. Oh, well, there we go. Technology is always fun. So what we did, the anatomy of Innovate, this new version, I've got one more quick little screen, a little demo to show you so you can actually see it. You can't have a 3D interactive conversation with a 2D chart all the time. But what we've done now in this new game is we've created 3 mini games, those scenarios that you saw in the trailer, right? One around customer service, one around smarter traffic, one about smarter supply chains. And so you can actually go and play them. And my 9-year-old and I sat down and we played all 3 of these simulations, and he didn't stop. He didn't stop a beat for any of them. He kept on going one to the next. And the exciting thing about it is that even at 9 years old, we kind of snuck into his brain a little bit about business process modeling, and he was able to make the choices on how to optimize the supply chain to say, oh, I'm going to bring in that lumber because the hurricane's coming and I need my Home Depot or Lowe's kind of store to be ready, and I'll bring in some from Maine and some from South Carolina and some from my local vendors. And he did it, and he had fun. And this is a 9-year-old. So, you know, take that at face value. There's also a longer game that's available too, and that's one for download where you're playing it as a first person. It's a virtual world, and it's much more in depth in terms of the activities you're doing around smarter supply chains and the like. So the first 3 are available directly online, and if you're watching at home, it's ibm.com/innovate, and you can play all 3 of those after you answer a couple of, you know, who are you and what might you be interested type questions, but they're all free. So let me show you the last one, which is a demo of what the game looks like, so you can get a flavor of that. Process models, and as we make those changes, then we're able to dive into them. This is the example where we're making choices about the vendors, where we want those boards to come in, and it's very interactive. You get 3 shots to make your choices, and then you're committed to what you've asked to do, and then you're measured on several goals. Some of those goals are profitability, customer satisfaction, and ecological impact, because bringing, you know, trucks in from Maine, for example, is a higher impact and also hits your profitability than getting from the local suppliers. Similar kinds of things happen in the other 2 scenarios too, so you can actually see what happens when you're shifting resources from one place to the other. And here's just a short little, you know, vignette, a little cutscene from the traffic example, and some of the ideas that can be done in the traffic example for putting in smart traffic lights and the like that monitor traffic that help flow through the city. So as this is polishing up here, I think this is where I will stop for now. I want to be considerate of your time, and I also want to allow at least a little bit of time for questions. So I will go ahead and hit escape here.
All right.
Because that's close enough, I think, for government work, right?
Thanks so much. And it's fascinating to see a bit more from the business world, what the applications are. Okay, we have time for a few questions. What are your thoughts?
Hello, my name is Masi Sotole, student at SAIS. My question, I guess it could have been asked of any of the presenters, but as the simulations are starting to become in vogue, is there any concern about impersonal, you know, it becoming too impersonal? The same way that nowadays when we call, there's a lot of automation. There's a lot of, that if we get too far away from face-to-face interaction, that might sort of be a problem.
That's a great question, one that could be a really long answer. I'll give you my personal, 30-second version. I think the face-to-face is critical. Bringing people together like we're here together is very important because you get to meet people, you shake their hand, you share a meal. But once you've had some of those initial relationships, being able to collaborate virtually, as you've seen in Second Life, as you've seen in Forterra, Olive, etc., is exceptionally powerful because now you've got a relationship and you can build and capitalize on it. So I think it's important to have both. Great question.
All right, thanks for that. Good answer. Yes.
Oh, I was going to ask if it's extensible, so we can put our own content and our own things in it.
Okay, terrific question. Also, there's an example that I actually have in the deck, and we'll make sure it's available so you can see it and all the links and such. of where we're working with Farmers Insurance. And the folks at Farmers are using this game and the engine to train their call center representatives because they want them to fail faster, make mistakes online, do the optimization learning there, and then come into the call center operations and be productive. So absolutely, yes. Government. Beth being here this morning was fabulous. She asked for ideas. So I think we should all take it upon ourselves to supply her with ideas, because what we've seen today is it should be an example of public-private partnerships with entertainment and technologies for sure. Thank you, Joel.
A fantastic way to end the day with those observations. Thank you. And final words from Sheldon.
I'm going to be very, very brief here. You can't put together an event a day like this without lots of people being part of that and contributing to it. So we got to give some thank yous here. Lisa from 3D Security Initiative, not only for co-monitoring, but being a co-sponsor of today's event. Tom Callahan and the whole team down at Lockheed that have been just incredible partners throughout. We've had a lot of thought partners. We've got Beth Cole there from PPSO here at USIP, Mike Jazik. Several others at USIP have been terrific thought partners throughout this process of putting this day together. Also, there's a couple of individuals. I don't see them here. Anand's already left his station to go take care of phase 6 or whatever it is. But Anand Varghese and Chris New are two staff folks that have just done an incredible job. There have been lots of other staff people you've seen throughout the day. Joanne back there. We owe them a huge debt of gratitude. And Joel, that's okay. I am happy to have a separate round of applause for Joel Whitaker here, who really quarterbacked today's event. Joel is the senior advisor to the Center of Innovation in Science and Technology and Peacebuilding, and we are very lucky to have him. And finally, let me just thank all of you out there who have been an incredible audience. And there's an old baseball story about the pitcher being on the mound, and he's starting to get knocked out of the park, right? They're long fly balls, home runs, everything. Coach comes up to the pitcher and says, "It's time for you to come out." The pitcher goes, "No, I'm okay." Coach says, "No, it's time for you to come out." And the guy on the mound says, No, I'm really fine. No, we need to take you out." He says, "Coach, I'm not tired." And the coach says, "Yeah, but the outfielders are." And you guys have been great outfielders, catching everything we've been throwing at you all day. So thank you very much for coming and helping me today. As I said, it's just the start of a journey. We are just going to wrestle with the data you give us. Please fill out those forms. We're going to be trying to determine not only the highest, we've got to match the tools with the problems, with the challenges. So we're starting a process of trying to figure out what are the biggest problems facing the peace-building conflict management community, as well as what are the right solutions to apply to those. We've seen a huge range here today, everything from virtual worlds to text-based simulations to the IBM business process modeling, a whole range of things that we need to apply the right tool to the right problem, which is the very definition, isn't it, of smart tools for smart power. Finally, all of the presentations that we can get from the presenters will be posted online. There will be a full archives of today's events, and we will share that with you, including the whole video that's been captured today as well. So, again, thank you very, very much for coming, and with that, let me declare the meeting officially adjourned.